All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Vikings. We are less than 24 hours away from their second matchup of the season against the Philadelphia Eagles, and it feels like everybody in this country, everybody from around the world is worried about the Minnesota Vikings, except for the Minnesota Vikings and except for Vikings fans. As Vikings fans know, 1 year ago, exactly 1 year ago, this team was embarrassed in primetime football against the Philadelphia Eagles, and they went on to win 13 games. Now, I know that was the second game of the season, but here's the bottom line. Teams start slow. All right, teams start slow, and there were a ton of tiny little mistakes that guys were making. You know, Kirk Cousins, a couple of fumbles, that interception. They're a handful of plays away from definitely winning that football game. But to be honest with you, there's a lot to be excited about. If the big concern was only scoring 17 points, well, I have a couple of things with that. First off, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is top 10. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a healthy defense, they will have a top 10 defense. They are still a very, very talented defense. Number two, the big concerns for the Minnesota Vikings heading into this season was pass defense or defense in general. They only gave up 20 points. You know, they only gave up 2 touchdowns, and the secondary actually looked pretty solid. I would say if the Minnesota Vikings controlled the time of possession, if they controlled the line of scrimmage and had more than maybe, say, 41 rushing yards, the defense in the second half, specifically the secondary, I don't think they would have been as gassed as they were, obviously. So that's my big thing heading into this matchup with Philly. We need more rushing yards. You show me any game, any team where they score or they rush for 41 yards, I promise you that team lost that football game, all right? You need more than 34 rushing yards from your starting running back. Now, we're obviously not placing all the blame on Alexander Mattison, but my point still stands. Minnesota's perfectly fine. They are perfectly fine, all right? And that's what we're going to talk about in tonight's video. But before we do, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. I am a cheesehead, but I do make a couple of Vikings videos every single week. So if you try to get this video to 500 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. So it's week one. It's week one. Teams start slow. Specifically, offenses start slow. And when we take a look at the Minnesota Vikings offense, Captain Kirk, Madison, the best wide receiver in the league in Justin Jefferson, a rookie in Jordan Addison who had a phenomenal NFL debut, 4 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson, my star tight end, 8 catches, 35 yards. Josh Oliver, a back pocket tight end. KJ Osborne, one of the more underrated young wide receivers in the National Football League. I don't have any worries about the offense. Maybe I have some concerns with the offensive line, but as we all know, the offensive line is the longest positional group. It takes the longest time for the offensive line to click and to get things figured out. So yeah, we've talked about some potential concerns with the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, but I'm not ringing the bell right now and calling saying, you know, we're effed. The Vikings offensive line is effed right here. So they're fine. They're perfectly fine. Now, this is a big game, all right? This is a big game in the sense of I want to see more efficiency. I want to see more than 17 points. And I'm very curious to see how the defense is going to handle against Jalen Hurts and the high-powered Philadelphia Eagles offense. Now, one thing that really changes things for Philadelphia and Minnesota tomorrow, the Eagles will be without Kenneth Gainwell, James Bradberry, and their safety Reed Blankenship, all right? Fletcher Cox is also questionable with a rib injury, but he's likely to suit up and play. They're down 3 critical starters for tomorrow. So not only, I mean, this was a very winnable game in and of itself because Minnesota, 13-win playoff team with your high-powered offense, second year of Kevin O'Connell. I mean, they had a good chance to win it anyways, but it is on the road. It is prime time. We know Kirk Cousins doesn't necessarily have the best track record career-wise in primetime games, but that kind of switched last year. You know, I don't really think that that narrative holds as much weight. So I want to talk about this secondary because guys like Byron Murphy Jr., we talked about the additions and how sneaky of a sleeper pick. I talked about Byron Murphy Jr., it felt like leading up to free agency saying teams need to sign this young, rising potential star, at least really quality, above average cornerback. And we saw this secondary, even the rookies, guys like Blackman, Harrison Smith, not the rookie, but you get what I'm saying. The secondary held up. And as we said, if the offense could just do a better job against Philadelphia, controlling the line of scrimmage and wasting more time on the clock, running the ball, giving your running back one more than 11 carries, it's going to go a very long way. That's what they have to do. And that's what they have to do for the entirety of the season. At the end of the day, a deep playoff run success is going to come down to the trenches, offensively and defensively for Minnesota. Now, we look at guys on the defensive line, outside of Hunter, there's a lot of, what do we really have here? And I will say, I need more than one sack than against Baker Mayfield. I need more than one sack against that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, but it is week one, so we'll give this team a pass for sure. But they have guys like Ivan Pace Jr., the rookie, the guy that nobody knows about, who had 20 sacks in his final year, like 30 tackles for loss in his final year of college. You're going to see a lot more Ivan Pace Jr. as this season progresses. It wasn't perfect, obviously. He only played 46 snaps, but he had 8 tackles and he had a quarterback hit. This isn't an undrafted rookie. This is an undrafted rookie. He played pretty damn good. It's going to take time. Things take time to click, all right? It just takes time. Like we said, historically, week one, especially in the first half, I mean, you look at this week in the National Football League, outside of the Packers, outside of Dallas and maybe San Francisco, pretty much every single offense was very inconsistent. And I will take 100% a slow start to the regular season, waiting for the starters to kind of click, right, to get into the groove of things. Keep in mind, a lot of these guys haven't played since January. So no, I don't regret the Vikings not playing various starters in the preseason, because I'd rather start slow than have a detrimental injury or even just like a bang up. Imagine if somebody, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, Madison, imagine one of them tweaks their hamstring in preseason. I would rather take a slow start, even if it takes 2 weeks. Give it a month. This Minnesota Vikings team, even if they're 2-2 after the first month of the season, they're still going to be perfectly fine. All right, they're still going to be perfectly fine. So some things to watch in this upcoming game: the secondary, both the trenches and the running game. Because I know what Kirk is. I know Kirk can sling it, and I know Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver in the league. I know TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne. I know they're going to get the job done passing-wise. But you're going up against a team that made it to the Super Bowl. You got to control time of possession. You got to keep the ball outside of Jalen Hurts' hands as much as you possibly can. So Alexander Mattison is a huge player to watch in this upcoming tomorrow night's game. On Thursday Night Football, 11 carries, 34 yards. He did have a nice touchdown catch, but we need more than 11 rushes, and we need more than 3.1 yards per carry. At the end of the day, the Vikings only ran it 17 times. They only had 41 yards. That's 2.4 yards per carry. That needs to change, and if we can get those numbers up into the hundreds, I've got Minnesota winning this football game. So let me know what you guys are thinking about the Vikings after week one. Obviously, we will post a Vikings video if they win 24 hours from now, so stay tuned for that. But as always, hit that like button, hit that sub button, and let me know what you're thinking about this Minnesota team down below.